Hello friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today for the students of computer sciences, we are going to talk on internet technologies. This is the first session on the particular topic, so we are going to give you introduction to internet technologies, and for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj is Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Sciences, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. Dear friends, Dr. Bharadwaj has immense experience, and she, through the live platform of CEC, delivers her best so that the student community as a whole gets maximum knowledge on the various issues and topics. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj and let's try to understand this topic in detail. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Good afternoon. Today we are going to start a new topic, that is internet technologies. In this issue, we are going to discuss about basically what is the technology behind the working of the World Wide Web. But to understand the World Wide Web and the technologies that support it, the first and the foremost that we require is to understand what is the internet. So internet basically, as we all know, it is a network of networks. That is, it is a worldwide network of computer networks, and it is growing hourly, and it involves national governments, communities and individuals. So basically, internet has its roots from the ARPANET. The ARPANET was first found out or was first created by the Defense and Analysis Wing, and it was called the DARPA. So this was done in USA by the Defense Academy of the USA. Later on, the same network started coming to academics and universities, and it was used to connect universities. And so on, it developed that it started providing a number of other services besides the basic communication service for which it was developed. Later on, as we have seen, that the internet has evolved today and it has become a worldwide network of enormous pages and websites, multimedia, text, images, which are available through various platforms to all the users. Today, it is very difficult to say that there is any part of the world which is still remaining to be connected to the internet. All services are available through an online digital platform, whether it is business, it is education, it is advertising, it is entertainment, it is communication. All services are being covered through the internet. So basically, what is the internet, or what is the architecture of the internet? So the basic architecture of the internet involves a backbone. And all these networks, as you can see, these are different local networks which connect to form regional networks, and the regional networks are then connected to this internet backbone. So this internet backbone is actually the connecting line which connects all the computers, and these computers, after they are connected to their local networks, they form regional networks, they form national networks, international network, and finally we get a global network where millions and trillions of computers and devices are interconnected to each other. Now this internet can be used for providing a multitude of services or a multitude of benefits to the users. So what are the different benefits that we get from the internet, or what are the different services of the internet that we get? So many of these services we are already very familiar with, like we have email. So email service, we are aware that it is used for transferring or sending electronic mails from one computer to the other. So we use the email accounts, and we can send there is an email client which sends the email and it is received by another computer. Then we have news groups where people who have similar interests, they interact with each other, and this provides a common platforms for discussions, and it has chats, and it has different kinds of media via common interests can be shared. Then another important application of internet is the telnet. Telnet is actually remote login, through which you can log into a computer remotely and work as if you are working on a computer at your local desk. So this provides you a facility of using all programs on the remote computer, for which you have, of course, you have the user ID and the authorization, and you can work on it. Then another important service provided by the internet is the FTP, or the file transfer. File transfer means by which you can upload and you can download the files from a remote computer. Telnet and FTP are different, because in Telnet you can log into a computer and you can use all the programs which are there, including the files. But in FTP you can only upload and download the files which are permitted by the remote host. You cannot access the programs that are there on the remote host. So it is only an uploading and downloading facility which is provided. And then of course we have the www, or the World Wide Web. World Wide Web, as we all know, was found out by Tim Berners-Lee, and this particular application, or this particular system, or this particular service of the internet has changed the way the world is working today. So basically www provides the users with an interconnected platform or an interconnected networks of websites and web pages, and these can be accessed from one to the other. They work like a mesh, and from any website you can reach to a multitude of other websites or web pages. So basically www is one of the critical services of the internet, which is being used by most users of the world. So the major features of the World Wide Web is that it is based on a language which is known as the HTML language, where you have the hypertext. So it is a part of the internet which supports hypertext documents and allows to view and navigate different types of data. So a web page basically is a document which is encoded in a language called the hypertext markup language. The HTML allows designers to link content together via hyperlinks, and every web page has an address which is known as a uniform resource locator, or a URL. So basically www will create a network, or it will create an interconnected pathway of web pages. A web page can have any type of data. It can have a text, image, video, it can have graphics, it can have multimedia, and these pages are linked to each other via hypertext. So hypertext is any text, you click on that text and it takes you, or it navigates you to some other page or some other file or some other part of that page also. There are different types of hypertext that we will be discussing in the course of this lecture. So hypertext is basically any text which lets you navigate through another pages. Now if we talk about the different components of the web, or how basically a World Wide Web is created. So in this case we will be discussing about different aspects like the clients and servers, the internet service providers, website hosting services. You need to know about domains, URLs and IP addresses, and you also need to know about the domain registrars, or the companies that register your domain name. So the first thing that we discuss is clients and servers. Now this is a very familiar architecture, the client server architecture, which is used for hosting websites over the networks or creating a web based system. And this system involves, basically it involves two or more computers. One computer is termed as the client. The client sends an HTTP request. HTTP, as you know, stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So this is the protocol which is used for the change of communication or for the exchange of information on the internet. This is an application layer protocol, as we had discussed earlier in the OSI model, and this HTTP protocol is used as the basic standard for communication between two computers on the World Wide Web. So a client computer sends a request for a web page to a server computer, and this server is known as a web server because it hosts and it stores a number of web pages and a number of websites. So this server receives the HTTP request from the client, and then it processes this request and it sends the HTTP response. The response is also in the HTTP format only. It sends the HTTP response back to the client. So the client is able to view the desired web page or for which it had requested, web page or element of the website. So this way the client server architecture works. Now when we are talking about a practical scenario, for instance we want to access a particular website from our computer, so what we do is that we use any browser. So browser could be Internet Explorer or Netscape Navigator or Firefox or Safari or any other browser, and through this browser we type in the address or the URL and we send this request to the server of that website. So here we say that the clients or the client side programs are the browsers, and at the server side we have different web servers like Apache and Oracle and other servers are there. So those platforms are used for creating a server environment at some other remote computer. So basically this works in a client server fashion. The client sends a request and the server sends back the response to the client in the desired format that the client wants it. Now the second is internet service providers. Now when you talk about internet, you need to obtain the services of this internet through some company. These could be a phone company, or this could be a basic internet connection, or you can have it through a cable wires or through a cable network, or through satellite, DSL or any other kind of network. So this basically is the provider who provides these services. As we are all aware, internet is not owned by any one organization or any one country. It is a public network, but the services of this network can be obtained through specific licensee companies who are licensed or who are authorized to provide those services to the users on a nominal cost, on some charge. They charge some money and they provide you with the internet services. So the internet service provider is any agency that helps you connect with the internet on payment of a requisite fees. Then the next thing is the web hosting services. Now web hosting means that if you have a website, you need a web server to host that website so that all the computers can see it. So for this you need web hosting services that connect the websites to the internet. So basically a web hosting service provider will have a web server software. It provides firewall hardware and software for security and information integrity. Then it provides various other IT services like disk space and management. Then bandwidth or connection to the internet is also provided by the website by the web hosting service provider, and basically web hosting is also provided by specific companies. If you can also have your own web hosting if it is a large company, and otherwise generally these services are also provided by service providers on payment of a particular fees, that is called as the leased fees or whatever. So basically you have to develop a website and then you need to host it. So for that you hire some space on a web server, and this is done, and this is known as the web hosting. So now your website is to be hosted so that it can be connected to the various computers on the internet, and various users of the internet can look at your website, can see your website. Now when we are talking about URL is a very important part of the web component, because URL defines the complete path, or it defines the location of a resource on the internet. So URL actually stands for Uniform Resource Locator, and this is the protocol. So it has different parts. So the first part of the URL is known as the protocol. Like here you can see http:// you write www.someaddress.com/8080/file/intro.html. So the whole thing is called as a URL, and this URL has specific parts. Each part has its significance and has its role in defining the address of the resource. So the first part is called the protocol, or the HTTP is known as the protocol. Protocol means the way in which information is going to be transmitted. If you are talking about the World Wide Web, then the information is transmitted through HTTP. If you are using FTP, then you will have to use FTP. Then the next part of the URL is www.xyz.com, or the name of the website. So this is known as the domain name, or the name of the computer, or the address of the computer at which your hosting is done, at which your website has been hosted. Then the next thing is, say for example, sometimes you see a number like 8080. In this case, this stands for the port. Port means the connection interface at which the client and the server are going to connect to each other. So for HTTP, the port number is generally 80, so we put 80, and after that we have the name of the file. For example, intro.html is the name of the particular file on that computer that you want to open. So basically you specify the protocol, the name of the computer, then you specify the name, the port at which you have to connect, and then you specify the particular file that you are looking for. It is very much similar to the way you write the address of somebody's house. You write the name of you have to write the name of the city, then the name of the locality, then you write the street, and then you write the name of the house number, or the particular house in which you have to send the resource, or you want to locate that. So similarly in this also it has several parts, and each of the part has its significance. So a URL is the ID, or it is the address of any resource on the internet. So the next that we discuss is domain name. As I just told you, domain name is like the name of the website. So they can be broken down into parts, like we say www.someaddress.com. So in this case, some address is the first level domain name, then you have the third level domain name and the second level domain name. So domain names are basically used so that the IP addresses and domain names can be mapped. So we are going to discuss this point also. First, let us see what is an IP address. So IP address is basically the internet protocol address, and this can be represented as an octet. So you can represent it from 0 to 255, and you write 255.255.255.255. So you can have the numbers from 0 up to 255 in this quadrant. So this is basically the unique address or the unique ID of any computer on the internet. Now the thing is that we are more familiar, or it is more easy to remember names than numbers. So therefore, for identification of the computers on the internet, we use names instead of numbers. So these IP addresses are actually replaced by the names, and these names are known as domain names. So instead of saying 1.243.192.68, I will say www.pqr.com. So this means that I am using a name instead of a number, but basically in both the places I am referring to the same computer, and this mapping between the name and the number is done by a particular server or a particular computer, which is known as the DNS. That is, of course, we are not going to talk about that here, but the point is that domain name and IP address is the location or is the ID of a computer on the network, but for the purpose of the World Wide Web, computers are always identified or located through their domain names and not their IP addresses. So basically, for a domain name, what you need is a domain registrar, or a domain registrar is basically a company that provides the registration services for a domain name. So it maintains the database which maps the domain names to the IP addresses. And in this case, we say that, for example, if you want to register your website with a particular name, so then you need to go to the domain registrar company or to the agency who registers domain names, and this new domain name is propagated and the IP address is mapped to this domain name. So basically, it is the authority or it is the company that maps these domain names to the IP addresses. So you save your website or you host your website on a particular server, and then after you host it, you obtain the IP address of that computer, and then you create a domain name and you get that domain name mapped with that IP address through the domain registrar company. So once the name has been registered for a particular website, that cannot be given to any other website. It is similar to registering the names of companies. So before you can actually start a company, you have to first register the name. So finally, now we see the process or the steps which are required for creating a new website. So the first step that you choose a domain name, the first thing that you do is you create a domain name for your website. Then you go and you register that domain name with the domain registrar. You go to the company, you pay the requisite fees, and you register the name, that particular name for your website. The next step is that you choose a hosting service provider. Which company or how are you going to host your website? There are different options for hosting which are available in the technological sector. So you choose the most feasible and the most viable solution for hosting your website, keeping in mind the cost, the traffic, the network connectivity and all other factors. You choose a particular hosting services where you will host your website. After that, you tell the registrar the IP address of your host computer so that the mapping between the domain name and the IP address can be done. You get, when you go for the hosting, they give you the IP address of the computer on which your website will be hosted, and this IP address is then given to the domain registrar, who will then map your IP address and the domain name that you have registered. So after you have found out, after you have decided and registered a name for your website, and you have finalized who is going to host it, and you have obtained an IP address for your website, then you start developing the content of your website. Then you start designing and you start putting what you want to show in your website. So after this step, then you publish your website, or publish your website means you go online so that people can see, and you store your website on the web server where you are going to host it, and finally you submit it for the new website to the search engine, so that if anybody looks for the matter related to your website, to the subject of your website, they can easily go to the search engine and they can find it. So this is the process of creating a new website. So right from finalizing a domain name, then you go and you register the domain name, then you finalize the hosting, then you get an IP address. After you finalize the hosting, you do the mapping of the domain name and the IP address that you have obtained. Then you finally create the content of your website, you publish it online, and then you go for the search engines to finalize it. So basically this is the process of finally creating a new website. Now in the next part of the lecture, we are going to talk about what are the tools, what are the different tools which are required for creating a website. So we can see here 4 different tools have been marked. First is the markup languages, like we have the HTML, the DHTML, XML, etc. Then the second tool is the cascading style sheets, which is known as the CSS. Then we have the scripting languages like Perl, JavaScript, PHP, and finally we have some web creation and editing software which are available for the purpose. So first thing is that we must understand what are these technologies and where these technologies are going to be used. See, we have seen that basically a website works in a client server architecture mode. So client server architecture mode means that we have to design the element for the client. The basic designing is done what the client sees, but the processing is done at the server side. So we have, when we talk about a website, so internet technology in case of a website would refer designing both for the client side and also writing the coding for the server side where it can be processed. So basically the client's end or the designing part is done using the various markup languages that we have just seen, like HTML or DHTML or XML, etc. So these are used basically for designing of websites for the client's end. Then we have some cascading style sheets. So basically cascading style sheets are also a part of the designing element of the website, because they are also used for client side designing and they provide a consistent styling element for your website. So style sheets are used for this. Then there is a term which is very commonly used, that is called as scripting. So scripting is again used at both client as well as server side. So you have server side scripts like PHP and you have scripts like JavaScript which can work at both client and server side. So for client side you use scripting languages so that you can do some basic processing like password checking and some basic very basic type of calculations. But at server side the script is used for more complicated and complex tasks like even accessing the database of the web server and fetching information from there. And then we have the various softwares which can be used for this purpose. So we have the most basic software that is used is the Notepad for creating HTML files and scripting. And then we have other softwares also like Dreamweaver, and there are various numerous softwares which are available in the market that you can use. So after this session we are now going to continue with the development part and we are going to talk about HTML. Thank you for now.
With this note, thank you ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us this session on internet technologies. Dear friends, there is a lot more for you, so you are requested to be with us as we are back after a short break. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Friends, today we are talking on internet technologies and we are trying to understand the various internet technologies, and for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj is Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science. He is in Mary College. So let's welcome our guest and let's try to have more knowledge on the topic that is internet technologies. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
So we were talking about the different technologies that are used at the client side and the server side, and we had seen that at the client side, for the designing of website, the most common technology or the most common tool which is used is the HTML. So now we are going to talk about what basically is a website and how it can be designed or how it can be created very simply using a simple tool like the HTML. So we come across two terms generally. One is the web page and the other is the website. Now what is the difference between these two terms? A web page is basically a single HTML file, and all the information related to a single theme is put on the web page, and it is usually a small physical file and it requires little planning for its layout. Whereas a website, it consists of multiple pages. In fact, a website is a collection of multiple web pages which integrates several different themes in it, and it can sometimes be immense and it can be really complicated, and you need careful planning for designing and preparing the navigation of your website. So basically a website is a collection, or it's an organized collection of web pages which are common on a theme. So any organization, company or business house can start or can plan to have their website, and for the first step is creating the web pages. Now there are some elements which are very important before we actually start creating the website. Like, the website should be very simple and intuitive. If it is very complicated, the user may not find it appealing to view your website. Then security measures in a website are also very important, because the user's information, if the website is collecting through any forms etc., then that information should remain secure. So security standards and security regulations must be carefully enforced before you actually accept users' data on your website. Then your website's layout should be interesting. The color scheme and the design elements should be such that they should be able to hold the user for long. If you use a very gaudy, or if you use a very thick color scheme, then that may also not be very good for the user. So after a brief discussion on what the look of the website should be, what a website actually is, let us now begin with actually designing the website using the tool which is called as the HTML. So HTML is a very basic tool used for designing of web pages, and it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So basically it is a language used to create web pages, and it is a text file that you create which contains the markup tags which are shown here. These tags tell the web browser how to display a page, and then you save your text file as .htm or .html file extension. So basically HTML stands for hypertext. Hypertext, as I just told you in the previous part of the lecture, is any text which when clicked takes the user to some other file or some other page, is known as hypertext. Because hypertext markup language or HTML will have extensive use of this type of hyperlinking and hypertext, therefore this name has come from there. Markups are basically simple symbols which are used by editors or for printers to define the overall look of the page. So markups are, you can say, these are symbols which are used. So basically HTML is a language which uses extensively hypertext, and these markup symbols for showing the content on the screen of the browser. So what you do actually is that you start creating the file in the notepad. Now as you are aware that the notepad files are saved by default using .txt extension. Here you will change the extension of the file and you will save the notepad file with .htm or .html extension. Once you will save the file with .htm or .html extension, you will see that the the icon of the file will change. It will not appear as a the icon will not show as a notepad file, but it will show you as the icon will show you as your default browser's icon, because this file will then open in your browser. So the output of this file is seen in the web browser like Internet Explorer or Netscape Navigator or Google Chrome or Firefox, whichever browser you use, and the editing part can be done in Notepad. It is also important to remember there are some softwares which are available where you do not need to shift between the Notepad and the browser. They allow you for simultaneous working, and you can split between the design view and the code view, or you can see both of them parallelly. So such software or web designing tools are also available these days which can be used. But for a beginner, HTML can easily be done without procuring any of those expensive softwares, using only Notepad and the browser which is available on all computers. So basically what is HTML? We have seen HTML is a language, and there are some very important features of HTML which needs to be known before you actually start working on it. So the first thing is that it is a clear text language and it is case insensitive. Case insensitive means that whether you type in uppercase or lowercase letters, it makes no difference. It ignores all white spaces also. If you leave some extra spaces in your commands, etc., then those are also left. Then basically it is comprised of tags. Now what is a tag? It is any element which creates the components of the page. So tag is surrounded by angle brackets, and it always generally it comes in pairs. Like for example, when you start a tag you write P for paragraph, and when you end you write /P. And what you write between P and /P is known as the element contain or content, or the text or the data on which you want the effect of that tag to be seen. Then it is also important to know that there are two types of tags which are used. Some are known as open tags and the other are known as closed tags. As I just showed you, P and /P, it means this is a closed tag, because once you open it, you specify some text and then you close the tag. And open tags are which are not supposed to be closed. So basically open tag is something like this. You have the name of the tag and you specify the attributes, like you have a tag called HR, or you have another tag called BR. So these are open tags, so these are not supposed to be closed. Or you have a tag called image, which is used for inserting an image there. So you have closed tags, and then you have comments. So HTML comment can be shown like this. You can see HTML comment is shown by an exclamation mark followed by 2 dashes. So anything which is written between this becomes a comment, that is, it will not be read by the browser. So we have seen that HTML, first thing, is a case insensitive language. It ignores all the white spaces, and the basic element or the basic component of the language is a tag. So we have predefined tags, and a tag is written in between angle brackets. And we have seen that there are two types of tags, container tags or we say closed tags, wherein you define the opening and the closing of the tag. Like for example, if you want to make a certain text appear in bold, so then you have to specify an opening B tag before the text, and you have to specify a closing B tag till the point where you want the bold effect to end. So this is type of a tag is known as a container tag or a close tag. But if you just want to go to the next line, so in that case you do not have to specify the scope, it is a simple tag, a next line. So you just simply write BR. BR stands for break and it will take you to the next line. Or if you want to draw a horizontal line on your page, then in that case you only simply write HR in angle brackets and it will draw a horizontal line on your page. So these are a few examples of empty tags or open tags that do not need to be closed. Then we see the basic elements of an HTML page. So whenever you start typing HTML, you begin with a tag called HTML. In your notepad file, the first thing that you write is HTML. Then you have the page is divided into two parts, that is the header part and the body part. So the header part is defined as head and the body part is defined as the body. So the first tag that you write on the notepad is the HTML and the last thing that you write on the notepad file will be /HTML. So anything that comes between HTML and /HTML is going to be read by the browser and it is going to be shown on the browser the way you want it to appear. So those will be used as markups or special signs of the language. So here is a file which shows you how you will begin typing in the notepad file. So you will write HTML, then you write head. In the head portion you define the title of your page which comes on the top of the browser screen, that is the title of your home page or whatever HTML page. Then you close the head tag. After you close the head tag, you begin with the body. In the body, whatever content you want to put, you can put that. Then you close the body and finally you close the HTML tag. So basically all the content that we are going to create and all the design elements that we are going to put here are going to come in the body part. The head part generally only has the information of about the header or the main basic title of the website, and title actually contains the title of the page. So title may be specified for each page. So as you can see, in the body part you put any content that you want to show on your browser's screen. Here you can see where each of these is going to appear. So the title will appear just above on the browser's title bar, and then you have the head portion of the website, and after the head begins the body. It is important to note that there is no such demarcation on the page like head and body, but it is for the user to understand that the topmost portion of the page is called as the head and beneath the head is the body. So we have seen that the HTML page is actually divided into two main parts, the head part which has all the headings, and then you have the body part which has the main content of the web page. Now first we will begin with some basic formatting tags which are used to format or which is used to make changes in the text which is shown on the web page or on the browser screen. So the first tag that is used is the heading level tag. As you can see here, we have used H1 to H6. 6 heading level tags have been used here. Along with that, you can see there is an HR tag that has been put. So I have written H1, then I have closed H1, so that the effect of the H1 tag will be limited and the H2 tag begins next, then it is closing. Similarly, we are using heading levels up to H6. So in HTML we have heading levels from H1 to H6. So H1 is the highest level heading and H6 is the lowest level heading. So if you will see, this is the output of this page. So you see level 1 header, level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a horizontal line will be appearing at the bottom of the page. Then we use several other formatting tags which are used. These are, first tag that is very commonly used is the P tag. So P stands for paragraph. So when you want to format your data or when you want to put your text in the form of paragraphs, you use the P tag. Once the P tag is used, it always begins in a fresh line. It starts from a fresh line, leaving a blank line. Then we have the line break or the BR tag. As I told you, the BR tag is an open tag. You don't have to close the BR tag, and this is used to go to the next line. So in case of BR, it will not leave a blank line, but it will simply jump to the next line. Then you have the horizontal line or the horizontal rule, that is the HR tag. So the HR tag is used to draw a horizontal line on the page. Then we have the other formatting tags like the B. B stands for bold, I stands for italics, U stands for underline, TT stands for teletyping font, strong is the same effect as bold. Then we have for subscript, like you can see in the word H2O, 2 is a subscript element, and we have superscript like we have written x square y. So in this case 2 is a superscript element. So now we are going to see how these are practically used, or how you can use these tags for creating a similar kind of effect on the text which you are using in your web page. So the first tag that we see is the P tag. So P tag, as I just told you, will help you go to the next line and it will begin from the next line. Similarly, you have the BR command which is being used here. You have the HR where you can see a horizontal line will come. Then we have closed the P tag. This means that is the end of the paragraph, and finally we have closed the HTML body and HTML, finally the HTML tag. So this is the output of this program. You can see paragraphs are shown here, then the horizontal line is appearing, and every time that I am using a paragraph, I am closing the paragraph, the next paragraph begins after leaving a blank line. This is the difference between BR and P, that P is started, the paragraph, next paragraph always starts after leaving a blank line between the two. Then in this slide you can also see different effects of the formatting tags have been used, like bold, italic and so on. So you can see here it begins from HTML, then we have head, then you supply some title, it is optional, so it has been left here blank. Then in the body you can see we have B tag to show in bold, we are using I for italics, and you can also see that there is a nesting of tags that has been done here. So I am using both B as well as I together. So this will appear in bold as well as italic. These two effects will be applied together. Then we have the P tag, of course that is for a new paragraph. Then you have underlined U. Then strong is used for the effect similar to bold. And we have the typewriter style font. So we use the TT tag and we close the TT to limit the scope or to limit the effect of the tag. Then we are using the superscript. So you use the SUP and then you close the SUP, and you use the subscript for SUB and closing SUB command. So if you see, this is the output of this file or if this HTML coding. So it appears in bold, italics, then it appears in bold and italic both because both the tags were used. Then it is used to underline, then this is for strong. Then the typewriter style font can be seen here, which is different from the regular font that you see. Then the effect of the superscript and the effect of the subscript can also be seen here. So you can see that a number of formatting elements can be done using the different types of formatting tags that are available in HTML. Now there is another important feature and very interesting feature that is used, that is for pre-formatting of elements. Like for example, if you want some text or some matter or some particular pattern to appear on the screen as it is, then how do you design or how do you manipulate that using HTML? So for that, HTML provides a tag called the pre tag. So anything which is enclosed between the pre and the /pre tags will appear on the screen as it is. Once again I will tell you, the pre and the /pre tag is used for pre-formatting any text, graphics or any kind of pattern that you want to make using any special symbols. So if you write pre and you write /pre, anything which you enclose in between this will appear on the screen as it is. So you can see here, when I am using the pre tag, so this is the output on the browser screen. It appears as it is to the user, or it appears as it is on the browser screen, whatever has been enclosed in the pre tag. So we have seen here that HTML provides you different elements of formatting your data or formatting your text on the page. Besides your text formatting, you can also play along with a lot of different patterns. We are also going to talk about images, etc. So then the next important element which comes is the font element. Font means the way the text is going to appear or the style in which the text is going to appear to the user. So for changing the font, the tag which is used is the font tag, and the font tag has different attributes. That is, you can set the different properties for font, like the font face. Font face means the name of the font that you want. In this you can see that 3 font names have been used, like Arial, Times, Courier. This is done to specify the priority or the precedence of the fonts. Like if Arial is not supported by a particular browser, then Times could be taken or Courier font can be taken. Similarly, color has been specified, like color is equal to red, and the size of the font has been specified to 3. Then you have the text on which you want this particular font to apply, and you close the font tag. So the effect of this font, color, size and type will be applied only to my text, not after that. After you close the font tag, the effect will be limited. It is important to understand that a lot of HTML tags, they have several attributes or properties that you can set. Some properties are common, like align property. Align means how you want to align the matter or how you want to align the text in that particular attribute or in that particular tag. So you can also use the align attribute with the P tag. If you want to align your paragraph to left, right, center or justified, so you can simply write P space align is equal to left, right, center or justified. Any of the 4 alignments can be specified. Similarly, we will be seeing that align attribute can be used with a other large number of other HTML tags also, and the values are more or less depending on the tag for which you are using the align attribute. Then the next most important part is the use of colors. As we know, any design element is incomplete without using the colors. So a color, basically the HTML supports all basic colors, and the 3 primary colors that are used are red, green and blue. Besides this, you can also specify the names of several colors like cyan, magenta, yellow, black, white, etc. But HTML also supports the use of colors in an hexadecimal format. Hexadecimal format, basically it specifies a combination of these 3 colors to form any other color. Like for example, if you adjust the intensity of RGB, you can get different colors of the world or the different colors. So these intensities can be adjusted to get millions of shades that the user wants. So for each particular shade you have a specific hexadecimal code. So hexadecimal code can be specified by specifying the values using the hash. As you can see, if you want to write the color red, so you can simply write color is equal to hash. Hash means that the format used for specifying the color is a hexadecimal format, and you write FF. So the values can vary from 0 to F because it is a hexadecimal format which supports numbers or 16 digits. That is, you can specify numbers from 0 to 9, and you can specify alphabets A, B, C, D, E, F. So this can contain value from 0 to F. F means it is the maximum intensity for that particular color, and 0 means the lowest intensity for that particular color. So you can see in the we have specified R, FF. In the first 2 bits means you are specifying for red, the second 2 bits means you are specifying for green, and the third 2 bits means that you are specifying for blue. So various books on HTML contain a large number of hexadecimal color codes that can be used for different elements of the screen or different elements of the web page. Like for example, you can use color for backgrounds, you can use color for fonts, and for various other elements that we are going to see in the due course. Then the next element or the next type of formatting which is done to the text is of organizing the text in the form of list. So lists are of 2 types basically. You have unordered list and you have ordered list. So unordered list means that the list is going to be a bulleted list with no specific order or numbering. Ordered list is going to have a numbering which can be either Roman numbers or alphabets or numbers or lowercase Roman numbers, etc. So you can see here for ordered list the tag that you use is OL, and for the unordered list the tag that has been used is the UL tag, and the list items or the basic items in the list are specified using LI. So LI stands for list item, UL stands for unordered list, and OL stands for ordered list. So you can see the output of this UL and OL tag can be seen here. So unordered list is using UL tag comes in bullets, and ordered list it is done using numbers. So these are Roman numbers that are being specified. If you will wonder that why the ordered list is starting from the number 2, because that has been specified with the tag. So you can write OL type is equal to Roman letter I, uppercase I, and start is equal to 2. So if you write start is 2, that means that your list is going to start from 2 and not from 1. So in this case, in this lecture we have discussed the basic anatomy of how World Wide Web functions, how websites can be designed, what are the different steps, and we have also started talking about the designing of web pages using HTML. So we shall be continuing on the same HTML designing using website designing using HTML in the future lectures also. Till then, thank you.
With this note, thank you ma'am, thank you so very much. Dear friends, we know that you might have ample of questions in the mind, so if you wish to get answers to the question, do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. We'll try to give answers to your questions when next time Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj visits our studio, and yes, we would be continuing further from the point where we left here. Friends, keep watching us, keep writing us. We would be meeting again soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you ma'am, thank you once again.